Hey, good morning. Sorry if y'all can hear my baby in the background, trying to get him situated. Um, Kelly, thanks for getting the meeting started. Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you fine, Alicia. Thanks. I think Kelly just couldn't hear us.
Okay, Kelly, can you hear us now? I don't know what's going on with that. Um, but anyways, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us so early. So like Kelly was saying, if we've had a chance to look at the last meeting's minutes in July, if anyone would like to make a motion to approve and then a second.
Move to approve.
Who
I
was that?
second. Right.
All right.
Who made the motion
Thank
to
you.
approve? I just see a number 1259811.
Winston Charles.
Thank you, Winston. And then I heard a second. Who was
That
that?
was Jan Tidwell from Cartersville.
Oh, thanks, Jen.
You're welcome.
We'll just do it like this. If anybody has any edits or is opposed for some reason, go ahead and speak now, or if not, we'll consider your lack of response to be consent for approval of the minutes.
All right. Thanks, Liz. So I guess you're up next on the agenda for the GTC update. So we'll just roll with you.
Yep, that sounds great, Alicia. Thanks. So we are planning for our big November meeting on the 16th, which you'll hear a little bit more about down the agenda. And the third Thursday of November always coincides with National Rural Health Day. So, we'll be in Core Deal at the State Office of Rural Health. So we plan to really have a huge rural focus as we have for the last couple of years. So we're pretty excited about that because we also are going to have our afternoon rural focused session to kind of start a formalized approach to addressing those recommendations in the ACS system consult. So if you did not get an invite to that, we essentially sent the invite out to those who participated in the ACS consult, but I know there have been some movement in and out of the system since then. So if you didn't get an invite and you're interested in attending, please just use our GTC Business Ops email address, or you can put it in the chat and I'll try to look over at the chat and catch you. But email is the best way to let us know you're interested in doing that. And it will be necessary to have all of you at the table to really figure out what are the priorities for what we sort of attack first and, get your input, because this has to work for the people who are boots on the ground out there in the centers doing it every day. And hopefully we'll have a good multidisciplinary show because we want all system stakeholders around the table, not just trauma centers, but we need to have EMS folks as well. So pretty excited about that. I did communicate with a few of the level 4 centers who were not able to participate in the PTSF consults that we did last year because they were newly designated. And we set that contract up well in advance of the consult visits. So thank you for those who responded. If you're a level 4 center and you didn't have a PTSF consult, and for some reason I didn't have you on the list, or I know sometimes the prospective level 4 centers join this call. So if you're not yet designated, but you at least have the registry and are collecting data, we could consider you to have a consultative visit. We do that for the 1s, 2s, and 3s. And it's quite a bit of money that goes into it. So it's only fair that the level 4s have their opportunity, and the ACS does not have a process for that. So that's why we bring PTSF in. And the first round of centers, the 5 centers that underwent consult, related to us that they had huge benefit. If you were at last November's meeting, there was a pretty huge report out on that from PTSF. So we're looking forward to that. So just let me know and we will get that going. And the visits will occur around this time next year. So this is a huge pre-planning process. And for anyone who's going to participate, we've got to have all of you on the same week, because the team flies in for 1 week and they stay here and they visit all the centers. So email GTC Business Ops again if you, for some reason, did not respond to that, or if you're a new pursuing center who happens to be on the call and you're interested in that. And then speaking about level 4 standards, in a couple weeks, the ACS has the national COT meeting, and hopefully they will unveil when the level 4 standards will be released, since they were omitted from the gray book. And there is a rural committee working on revising the Orange Book standards. And I'm not sure what that will look like, if those standards will be added to the gray book or if it will be some kind of standalone, but I hope that that I'll be able to give you an update on that, at least at our next meeting or by the November commission meeting, certainly. And then I think I saw Gina on the call, and Gina, feel free to speak up, but I know she's making a lot of progress with Arbormetrics after a pretty long stall delay. It seems like we have a pretty good team on board now to get that moving. And that's going to be really important to you guys, because I think certainly level 3s and level 4s don't get the same utility. Certainly the level 3s are getting a little bit more, because at least you're able to participate in TQIP and risk adjusted benchmarking on a national level. But level 4s don't have the opportunity to do that. So Arbormetrics will give you the opportunity to do that, at least against your colleagues in Georgia. So that should be very helpful, and we'll need your input too about things that we look at and things that are important to you to look at. Gina, if you're on, is there anything else that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, can you hear me, Liz?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Yeah, just briefly, yes, we are thankfully having some really significant movement. And actually next Thursday or Friday, we'll have a kickoff meeting on our testing phase. And we do have a level 3 and level 4 representative that will be a part of that testing phase for us. So I'm really excited about that. So we'll enter 2 weeks of testing with some stakeholders from the system to actually look at our platform and make some suggestions on revisions and things that work, maybe could use some tweaking and stuff. So that's kind of where we stand with that. So they're still saying a December kickoff, but I'm a little bit hopeful that it might be a little bit quicker than that. So they're ready for 2023 data. So we being able to get the 2023 data in the last few weeks has been really helpful. So they've loaded all the 2022 data, which we'll be able to look at in that testing platform. And as soon as I have everybody's first half of 2023 data, we'll be loading that. So really good stuff.
Super. Thanks, Gina. And Alicia, I think that's all that I have. And it looks like Courtney is next on the agenda, and I think I see him. So, and he's got the March pause update.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz.
So good morning. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. So we did do the second March pause class in Swainsboro. The final draft class is scheduled for later this month in Archibald. I think that's on track to be successful. We learned some things again in the class here. We did actually have the students come in. We had 3 different centers participate: Emmanuel Medical Center team, Washington Regional, and Fairview Park and Lawrence County Center team over. So we had 3 different groups. It went well. They had some mid-course corrections. As I was teasing him, Dr. Patterson pulled the audible, and we changed the layout of the way we did the practical stations, which turned out to be a better success than what I had laid out, and got them through a little bit earlier. We did do pre and post tests. I'm still evaluating those, and we are going to revise the slides one more time based on some of the input that we got at that meeting. We've already had some conversations with Glenda about that. I don't, we're still, Glenda and I have talked several times about the CMEs for physicians and nurses. I think the EMS CEUs will be a little bit easier to accomplish. We know that process fairly well. So I'm cautiously optimistic that the class in Archbald will come off just exactly like we want. And then we will be somewhat ready for prime time. And when I say that, one of the goals of it is to put all of this didactic material, the lecture series, whatever, online on a platform at Mercer so that the students won't spend that time in class. They can get that information and more information from an online program. So we're actually looking at the different slides now and trying to figure out what can we embed into the slides, i.e. there's a lot of folks out there who have never trained in a traction sprint. So they come into that class completely cold, and we put in a video on a traction sprint, in particular the whys and wherefores and the procedures on how to do it so they won't walk into class completely cold. The IO is another thing that comes to mind. A lot of folks come out of their training or their education without the training and how to use it. So I think it'd be helpful to do that. Karen Hurst brought a friend of hers, Kevin from Teleflex, who's given me a lot of great ideas about some things. So we're continuing to work on it, and so very much appreciate those folks who came to help us with the class. I know you have other things in your life to do, but your input and your work was extremely good. And I'll answer any questions. Liz, let me ask you a question. We're doing this work with, we got that meeting this afternoon on the survey for the rural hospitals. Is that part of section 6, or is that a different, are we talking about two different animals?
So that's a good question. I was going to ask Alicia about that because I know she and Kelly had been talking about that. So maybe we can roll into that next and bump back to the action planning.
Sure. Thanks, Liz, and thank you, Courtney, for that update. I'm sorry I had to miss that Swainsboro course, but I'll be there at the Thomasville course. So I'm excited to kind of get the pilot, part of it out of the way and see when we can roll out our first potential course date and where. So y'all be thinking about location for where we may want to do the first actual March pause. Maybe even North Georgia. I know we've done a lot of stuff in South Georgia, but I'd love to really get some of the North Georgia rural centers involved. Oh, I see someone put in the chat, when is the Thomasville course? I think it's October 27th, excuse me. Friday the 27th of this month.
Correct.
So you're welcome. So the survey, Kelly and I were talking last night. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure where we are with the updates as far as like how many responses we've got. I think it was something that we were also going to tie into March pause as far as the pre-course survey, in regards to what do you have and what would you like to have? Because there's no sense in teaching March pause to you when you don't have that equipment. And then maybe it's something we can tie into a grant. So I know we've said that before, but as far as how many responses we've got and what seems to be the trends, I don't know. Does anybody on this call know the answer to that?
I do.
Okay.
We haven't gotten any responses because we haven't sent it out yet. So, and I apologize because we've had a smaller group kind of working on nuts and bolts there. We have got a draft of that, and it has been sent to, again, Mercer, because there's a huge concern about whether we asked the question right. And so they've got people there who can put that into a format so that when we ask the question, we get an objective response to that. I will send that out at the end of this meeting for everybody to look at. I think Liz, if I'm correct, we also have conference call today, I believe, with Chris Coggins and the folks at Mercer to kind of go over that draft. And it is draft, so I will send that out. And if you say, well, we need to ask this question, we need to ask that question, certainly happy to do that. And one of the things that we did do, Liz was kind enough to find the American College of Surgeons had done a survey some years back, I guess. We used a good bit of their questions and interpose those. And one of the things we would like to do is two things. I'd like to find out what kind of response they had and what they learned from those questions, so we could kind of mirror that or combine that data with what we find out. The other thing, we have asked for equipment training questions in there about what they do have, what they don't have, what they need. With the whole concept there, eventually we would try to find some funding mechanism for those centers to get things like blood warmers in the ED, so that would be available to them. And I apologize for not sending that out. I just neglected to do so.
Yeah, no, thank you for that information, Courtney. And, you know, as you were talking, I was thinking about, Liz, you said that the national COT meeting was coming up, and I just am curious with the rural part of that, like, sorry, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I just had some feedback. Okay. But if there is some kind of standard survey, it sounds like there is, Courtney, from what you're saying. So that would be interesting. And if there's not, to kind of collaborate with them or put a bug in their ear of, hey, how can we put together, you know, we all are familiar with the PRQ that we have to fill out for the ACS consult visits. And sometimes it's good to maybe have some prompting questions, because if somebody asked me like, well, what do you need? I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't even know where to begin. So maybe we could break it down into sections as far as like, you know, regarding blood products or administration of blood products. You know, do you have a level 1 transfuser? Do you have a blood, you know, method to warm or thaw out your FFP? Because I know that was something that we struggled with making our mass transfusion protocols. It took so long to thaw out the FFP that like you needed to have already given the first cooler by the time you got it thawed. So we had to change our massive transfusion protocol to fit that. So, but if I hadn't have been asked specifically, you know, what do you need in regards to this, or do you have this, then I would have not thought about it. So, what time is that meeting? Or I'll get with Liz and Courtney later after the call, because I have some time today that if it'd be helpful for me to jump onto that other call, that I'd be happy to, or to have some further conversation about how to form this survey and when we can get it out, hopefully before, you know, hopefully before the end of the year, if not before Thanksgiving.
Well, what I'm hoping to do is have it sent out before the meeting, before the meeting we had hoped. And yeah, I think if we can get the draft done, we've been very fortunate to have support of Nita Hammett, State Office of Rural Health, and she has a great relationship with these small rural hospitals, because they do a lot of help with them with funding and grants and this sort of thing. And she's been helpful, and she's going to send it out to her contacts with these hospitals. We think that will get a better return rate, simply because they know her and trust her. So that's one aspect of that. So we hope to get that done, and I'll get you that information about the meeting. And I think it's today, but I'll be honest with you, some days my days run together.
It's today, Courtney. You're right. You got that part right.
That's the only thing I'll get today.
It's at 9:30, and Kelly and Alicia, I forwarded the invite to you. It's just 30 minutes. So I think that since it's going to 3s and 4s and all other rural hospitals, which ultimately our goal is to get the March pause out there, I think that little resource checklist, like Kelly, that you mentioned, and Alicia, to know if they have, you know, that will help us really tailor March pause. Because if you don't have any apparatus to rapidly infuse blood or warm it, that's going to be a real problem. And that might be where, you know, grants come in to just make sure, especially in those areas where you're a long, long way for a trauma center. From a trauma center, you don't have anything else. You know, we've got to start, and this is part of what we're tasked with this, the ACS recommendations, is to address those resource gaps. So just for everybody on the call to know that this survey is critical in that. And I'm curious now, the ACS did reach back out to us since it's been 9 months since the consult, and they want to touch base with us again to find out, you know, where we are with the recommendations. And I got to say that, you know, we've already, I'm just so thankful, Courtney, that you took that bull by the horns, because, you know, they certainly plopped us in our lap and didn't really give us any resources except to use some of the content from the survey they did. So, you know, we've kind of already gone ahead and done this, but I'd love to get, you know, I'd love to have them see if they have any other tool. We certainly can borrow from whatever's out there that folks are using, because they did mention to us that the resource gap analysis is it's a big undertaking. And so want to make sure we get that right.
And before we go on, I want to add one other piece to this puzzle, because we did have that meeting down and again, Nita hosted it, but we invited Georgia Hospital Association, American Association of County Commissioners, the State Office of EMS. We had a lot of folks there. But at that meeting, we were looking at the barriers and the barriers to that, and within the hospitals, and barriers with EMS on the immediate transportation of these critically injured trauma patients. And so there was two prongs to that, and one is what we've been discussing, is that survey instrument for the rural hospitals. But the other piece to that is the Georgia EMS Association, the State Office of EMS, and the ambulance providers, I think, are all going around the state. They're going to every region. They're not quite finished, but they're pretty close, and doing a town hall meeting. And we're trying to gather data from those town hall meetings about what is the EMS barrier for that immediate transportation from a rural hospital to a tertiary center where the patient needs to be. So we've got some good information, and the goal here is sometime, and it may be after the November meeting, but I'd like to get that same group back together down in Cordele again, and then put those two, the survey document and the information we gathered from those meetings together, and try to figure out, okay, how do we make this work? And what resources do we need to make it work? Anyway, so there's two prongs to that, so we're working on both of them.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. I'm really excited to see what comes of this. I think a year from now, we'll be looking back and be like, wow, like, look at everything we've gotten done. It all just started from, you know, an idea. So that's exciting. Does anybody have anything else before we just look at approving the 2024 dates and give everybody some time back?
I had a question on, this is Jeff at Piedmont Henry. I had a question on March
Yeah.
Falls. The ultimate plan, is it to have enough bandwidth to maybe do a class in each region? Or are we going to try to strategically maybe do 4 around the state that can accommodate everybody? Or what's the end plan on being able to offer these, or what kind of bandwidth do we have to teach this, you know, maybe each EMS region, or at least, you know, within the 4 quadrants of the state?
Well, our goal is much loftier than that, and I recognize sometimes you can get too pie in the sky, but our goal is to be able to do this at every rural hospital and EMS system. So one of the huge goals, and one of the things I've seen in my career, is there's this barrier called the ER door between pre-hospital providers and in-hospital providers, and sometimes it becomes somewhat combative. So the whole concept, kind of like the rural trauma team development course, is to put those providers all in the same room to develop a systematic methodology of caring for those patients, and for both sides of that ER door to understand what the resources are, and the concept of a rescue stop in a hospital, and what do you need to do to provide that. The concept for EMS to just, if it's not requiring a rescue stop and it needs a level 1 or 2 center, go straight there. So our goal is to make it, I'm not going to say easy, but if we can do the didactic online, And again, this is some of Dr. Register and Patterson pushing me because I come from a different world, but getting that so that practical skill set is like a 4-hour block. So the concept would be to go to a small rural hospital. There are actually two concepts of how we could put it on. One, go to one small rural hospital with 2 or 3 instructors and all the equipment. They would already have had the didactic. Then that morning, one half of their group comes to a practical session. And then they eat lunch, come back, and the other half of their team comes to that practical session. So it's designed to be that way. But the other thing is, if we say we want to do it on a regional basis, then it's scalable so that we could actually do the classes in person if they want. But it would also be so that they could do it online and just come into an area. And the reason that I like the idea of going directly to the rural hospitals, because we won't, if quite frankly, if a group goes off to an outside place someplace and does a class and then drives 50 miles back to their community, they still don't know each other. But if we do it in their community so that they sit down around the table and get to understand each other's side to this, and the whole goal is to put the patient at the center, is to try to figure out how we take care of the patient. And I talk too much, but I hope I got around to answering your question.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, we just completed the rural trauma development course in Region 4 at Henry a couple of weeks ago, and we had mixed between Henry, Spalding, and then we had a couple of other outside agencies. So I think your point's well taken that, the scenarios that we did in mixed company, we could talk about our resources and how we'd react differently with each resource. So I think the more we can get out there, would be the better. But, at minimum, at least representing the trauma centers in each region, especially for 4, where we've got 3 centers, but, we're spread out pretty far.
Courtney, I think Jay just volunteered to be on as the faculty for us. Jay, we're
Yeah,
putting
no,
your name
I
down.
would. Yeah, you can write me down. I wouldn't mind at all. I know that Emily and Rachel also would. We all got it good. We're doing another rural class in the first week of November, down in West Georgia, so we can try to hit that half of our region. But so yeah, I think we'd be, more than happy to participate.
Awesome. No, we really appreciate that. And I know Greg and I would love to have at least a few more physicians that could help kind of add to the pool of instructors. It's, obviously just the time it takes. It'd be nice to have a kind of larger pool to pick from, and that way the same person didn't always have to go to every one. I know for the pilots, we really kind of wanted to have some consistency, but as we grow it and build it, then absolutely, kind of like ATLS, you need more than just one set of instructors. So we would, anybody interested at all, just shoot me or Liz or Courtney an email, and we'd love to get you some information on how to get involved on that. Okay, anything else? That was some good conversation. Okay. Well, let's have y'all all had a chance to look at the proposed dates. Thank you for putting that up, whoever's in charge of the computer sites.
That's Gabby doing her great job.
Gabby, you're
on
amazing.
track.
Thank you, because I couldn't even get my computer started this morning. So if all those work for everybody, then if we could get a motion to approve those dates.
So moved. It's Courtney.
Thanks, Courtney. Any second?
A second. This is Jan.
Thanks, Jan. All right. I think those are set. If anybody has anything else, but I think that's the meeting. So we'll give everybody some time back this morning. I appreciate it.
Alicia, the only other thing we had was the action planning for the consult. For the
I'm
ACS
sorry.
consult. No, that's okay.
Did I miss
don't.
that?
I kind of referenced it up in my update. I should have just rolled right into it, but I have a document, and Gabby formatted it nicely, put her touches on it. Especially for the administrators on the call, you guys appreciate a 1-pager, that 80-page report from the ACS was it was a lot to tackle. So essentially just took the high level recommendations and put that in Excel format, and we'll send it out to this group and the folks that are included on the invite for the session on November 16th after the commission meeting. Basically have the commission meeting in the morning, break for lunch, and then for folks who are going to stick around for the action planning around the rural focused review, this will be the document that we'll work off of, right off of the recommendations that they sent us. So, you know, we kind of need to identify, we certainly have, you know, we have great participation on this call, you know, almost 50 of you at one point. So, I mean, we've got the right people at the table, and we'll have even more folks, again, from EMS, some emergency preparedness, some of the air EMS folks, and this is the group that we really need to sit down and, you know, kind of talk through some of these things and what you would like to see happen. And maybe more importantly, what doesn't work or what we've tried to have happen before. So we'll take a few hours to really dig deep into that. And that's going to be the first of several to come. So we're really looking for people, you know, we're not going to make changes in the system without some level of commitment of time to kind of work on some of this. So, you know, we're really hopeful that a lot of you can be able to attend, and we'll probably have some level of virtual participation. But as you're all aware, you know, virtual worked great. We dealt with all that during COVID, but it's really nice to have people at the table, and it'll be great to be at the State Office of Rural Health because they're very invested in supporting us in this journey. So that's all I'll say about that, Alicia. And I will send that document out probably within the next week. I want to make some updates to it and just put kind of something. You know, we've already done a lot of stuff around education with this, you know, March Pause program. So, so I will try to get some of that context added to it. And that's it.
Awesome.
Hey,
Thank you, Liz.
Liz,
Yes.
will you put the QR code up again one more time just for attendance, please?
I see Gabby scrolling to it now. There you go. Oops, there we go.
Thank you.
Can you see that? Okay.
Yes, thanks.
And
Awesome.
thanks for capturing your attendance, because with these big groups on these big committee calls, it's very hard to capture everybody. So make sure you always check the minutes, because Gabby records your attendance on the minutes. And, you know, a lot of these meetings are pay for performance required, and we want to make sure you get credit for it. So if you don't see your name on the minutes, that's the time to correct it. And you can do that when we review the minutes at the next meeting. So always at least look at that if you're not looking at anything else, and make sure we capture you, because we gotta keep that updated.
All right. Well, I think that's it. Thank you, Liz, for adding that in. Sorry, I forgot and skipped over it in the agenda, but all right, we all have a great Friday and a great weekend. And I guess the next time we'll see or talk to everybody is that the November in Cordial?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. All right, we'll see everybody then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.